So, I figured, cause you had mentioned, so you could start, the three of us met,
Give you, yeah,
Mr. That was the name of the
Penn,
Pen.
Yes.
Marshall,
Right.
I don't know how to pronounce it, but.
from Pennington Gray, so we did our walkthrough of Glacier and
Yeah.
you know, I'll just start by saying, cause I'll let them fill in more details about the preserve itself. My takeaway was that he kind of set up the thinking where that I think you could look to maybe highlight certain areas, you know, and sometimes some of that highlight doesn't necessarily have to be plantings, like there's definitely, which I always thought was cool, like some, you know, sort of rock face and bedrock outcrops that, you know, like I said, I like to have my friend who's an archaeologist come out, cause I know when you used to see those things, like when we would do other projects, you know, and you had to do environmental impact statements and, you know, consider all these other things, even if you're just doing, you know, federal level, state level wetlands permits, you know, he would just impart his wisdom onto us and have to do phase ones and, you know, to determine, cause there were just certain things about sometimes with, you know, just the facing and depending on like where the sort of the cuts were and, you know, where you could potentially, you know, have shielding and fire and the artifacts that he would look for to
Wow.
determine that. So, you know, I'm not saying that you have that, but like when I saw that, I'm like, that is a pretty cool feature.
Yeah.
So that's something that doesn't have to be
Maybe glacial.
planted per se,
Planted,
it's
right.
just another
To identify,
or whatever,
yeah.
yep. So that's it,
That's cool.
that kinda got me to thinking like that, so.
Well, I think even if
I'll let you
he
guys
didn't, if it wasn't something historical in that perspective, it could be, you know, he could explain how they got there,
Yeah, just
what it's made of.
like
what it-
So
environmentally
highlights
or
a
like-
glacial,
yeah.
yeah, glacial kind of.
Right.
Yeah, which
That's
is
cool.
interesting, cause there is a very interesting rock formation and
But yeah, he was thinking if we wanted to really tackle stewardship of Glacier, that we should break it down into identifiable named areas.
Oh,
And then someone can say, okay, I'm gonna work on the birch grove, I'm gonna work on the wet meadow.
That's cool.
I'm
Just
gonna work
talking
on the
about-
rock outcropping,
Cause we met Penn
cause we're not gonna be able
earlier
to do
this
it all.
morning, so we just our walk over, sort of
Yeah,
results following his
you know,
recon.
just, it was just,
yeah.
and he's gonna send notes, you know, as well, but the idea of actually owning and naming areas
Yeah, that's cool.
was kind of interesting, cause
Yeah.
then you can kind of,
identify
he said you
them.
could identify, and then you could even apply for grants.
Oh,
So if you're applying for, you know, some restoration of the meadow, you can apply for a grant if it's already mapped as this is
Oh.
the meadow area, this is.
so how is he gonna help us with that, or is that something
Well,
we
I
could
don't, I
just
think
do?
that's next step, I think the initial step is just whatever notes he puts together, then we can,
I did manage to get this job when I did admit at my interview, I think I beat the question, I'm like, I don't have any experience in applying for or writing grants. So they still offered it to me, so that was good.
that's a skill in
It
and of
is,
itself,
Yeah.
people are like grant writers,
Yeah,
like it's,
yeah.
it's definitely.
Yeah, hey,
So
so there are no lights out there at a walkway.
Yeah.
I noticed that
Yeah,
too,
yeah,
it's like-
cause now everybody's noticing it, cause 7 o'clock it's,
Yeah,
out.
Nice pitch.
That's a good point.
and I had trouble when I was driving in, seeing exactly where the
Me
driveway
too.
was, you know, I hit
Yeah,
the
it was-
curb on the right.
Oh.
and it was
Oh,
just-
really?
It's
Yeah.
super
so
dark.
that must
Couldn't
be
see it.
some timer thing that just hasn't gotten reset, maybe?
maybe.
Oh, maybe.
I mean, but yeah, it was like, cause I was kind of taking my time walking up the steps, I'm like,
Right.
I really don't wanna trip.
I parked in the
Okay.
front, so.
I did too, yeah.
And there weren't any spaces that I could see.
So,
Okay, what else?
and I guess the next issue is, which I don't disagree with them, it's a question of like how aggressive you want to be with respect to,
Thanks.
Frag and, Mugwort are not going away with harsh language, you know what I mean? So you need to sort of, there is, herbicide recommendation and that's gonna be.
In Glacier,
In Glacier,
In Glacier,
yeah,
yeah.
using
Yeah.
herbicide in Glacier.
yeah,
So that's
Something to
something to,
consider.
Yep.
right, and I think, in some levels, like depending on what we're looking to do and what the invasive is, like Phragmites is here to stay, it's everywhere,
Yeah.
so it's like, that doesn't mean you have to give into it, but this notion sometimes in thought, like to eliminate is a strong word sometimes, you know what I mean? It's, there's control, there's and, the only other control that I know of for frag is you gotta dig a little deeper and make the water a little deeper,
And
and
raise
then
the water
suddenly
level,
it just makes it unhappy, but, that in and of itself, you know, there's eventually gonna be some transition somewhere, you know, unless you have an environment that's like, you know, a former quarry pit, which it just goes, you know what I mean, and that's not what you're gonna have here, so that's the rub of that, so.
So, is what you're saying, or what Penn's saying, that we need to decide on to what extent do we wanna,
Yeah,
and we don't have to do that now, I'm
No,
sure, but
no,
like,
and a lot
at
of
some
these-
point, we're gonna have to say like, okay,
yeah,
Right.
and I think there's a prioritized element to it too, because a lot of those things that he pointed out and I agreed with, they're not like 3 small projects, like, you know,
Right.
a bunch of those are like endeavors to me, you know,
Yeah.
so it would be, you almost like would have to like sequentially prioritize and say,
Right.
where would you like to start? And then
Right.
see, you know, like, and that's like a start to finish before
Right.
you could sort of move on to others, you know, the good thing about, you know, some of the aspects of the meadow is that, you know, well, you could sort of like, you know, deal with mowing as like sort of this short-term control at some
Right.
level, you know what I mean? You're not gonna put a vehicle in to mow the frag, you know, like,
Right.
and there's gonna cut that, so if, you know, if the wetlands is your focus, maybe that becomes your priority. If it's the meadow, cause it's when you first walk in, that's fine too, you know, like, it's just, so I think, you know, again, to his credit, it was like, you know, start thinking along those lines.
And
so-
identifying areas
Yeah,
that you
yeah.
can then prioritize,
Right,
like
Right,
which
right.
area
should we
Right.
focus on
for
first, yeah.
resources and some areas that have a few invasive species but are not overrun might be a priority
Right,
area in
because you
some
can at least
ways,
clean those
because
out,
you can
yeah.
at least, you know,
Make improvements
It's a least
quicker.
resistance path to
kind of,
start
yeah,
and
and sort of like, you
get some
know,
accomplishment.
yeah,
Yeah, there's a human element to all this, there's no doubt,
absolutely.
no doubt, I'm with you.
I have a question about that. I just briefly saw something at some point in the past couple of weeks about something happening with people talking about Glacier and
Oh,
wanting
yeah.
to focus on trails versus even the trees. They were I mean, there was something
There
happening
was
about
a thing
that.
on Facebook.
Oh, you're talking
I
about
sent
Right,
that
the
to
Facebook?
you.
I don't really go.
No, I
onto
sent it out to
Facebook.
everybody from
Correct,
Facebook, or
but
somebody else.
I didn't follow up because I'm not part of that. But has there been more comment about that or?
No,
I sent a response, and that
Yeah.
seeed to be, that was it,
denied
it was
yes,
quiet,
yeah.
Okay.
yeah.
Cause but I think there was I think Ivy Poole might have said something
Yeah.
as well. I'm
We
trying to
were talking
remember.
about
She was
Yeah.
looking, yeah.
And the response was, you know, basically me just putting dimensions to this area, you know, where we're gonna put the trees and that, you know, it was actually the presence of mugwort that helped me dictate where I'm gonna put trees, how I'm gonna align rows and whatnot, and I said, you know, I would have made this longer if the mugwort was longer, but it was not, and I said, so now I have to cut in, I said, so, I mean, I was honest, I said, I don't consider this mowing the entire meadow. I said, on the flip side, I'm not going to sit here and say that individual specimens of native plants won't succumb to the mower. You know, it's not all mugwort, you
Right.
know, but having said that, I think I've tried to satisfy that someone who shows a picture that shows all of this and then uses the term clearing the meadow,
Right,
I don't think that's accurate or consistent, and I
Right.
just wanted to share with
Yeah.
you what that, so I,
no, I was
that's
just
kinda how we
curious
left
how
it.
it all ended up,
Yeah.
because I mean.
It went
are
away,
we-
the
are-
people who
Yeah.
complain on Facebook, it's like, you know, what outrage is happening today?
I see.
And then, right,
See,
and then it
again,
goes
I'm not
away,
involved in it
and they're
at
like,
all.
okay, I'm not outraged anymore.
Alright,
It's like,
I mean, I guess the point about the trails, you know, do we need to focus on any
no,
of those
that
trails?
was misrepresented.
Okay. 'cause
There's nothing wrong with the trails.
Okay.
You guys walked them, right? Somebody walked them.
Yeah, yeah,
We
and I
walked.
think I did.
We walked them and,
Yeah.
but you walked them
Yeah, I
officially.
think I mentioned in the email also that I said, I had to wait till winter, I said, you know, we have an iPhone app that we use now to try to locate or to document trees in town that are in rights of way that need to be removed, just
Correct,
sort of
right,
a
I
catalog.
remember all that.
So I said, my plan is to try to do that at Glacier, but I have to wait till winter till the leaves are down, cause I need good reception
Right.
to do
Yeah.
that. Cause
Right.
there's definitely some, I mean, we hit one today,
Yeah,
there's
we hit
definitely
one
some
today.
trails where there are
Those-
trees across the trail and
But you
Looks
need, it's
fresh.
like,
you wanna know where that is and you wanna be able to produce a map and say, you know, we have to cut here, here and here, and then who's
Yeah.
gonna cut, and is that something that the New
DPW
York, New Jersey
does,
trail
right,
volunteers will
right.
come and help do, will DPW do it, you know?
Right, that makes
Someone's gotta
sense.
lug a chainsaw into the woods, you know?
Yeah.
That's, you know, unless you have Amish festival here, you know, or something like that, and somebody's gonna go with the double saw, I said, you know, you need real equipment
Of course,
to remove
yeah.
those trees, those are big,
Yeah,
so,
no, that was a
Okay.
big tree that
Yeah,
was
yeah,
across
that was
the
just
path.
didn't mean to, I just was curious as to.
No,
Or-
it was my first, it took me back to my former life, because I felt like I was writing it in environmental impact ease language, you know what I mean, where I'm like, no, I'm not saying there won't be an impact, but what is, the significance of that impact, and how does it relate to the overall goal of the project, right? So that was funny.
That sounds good.
Yeah. So,
Okay,
to
thanks.
stick with Glacier, because I know I told you information this morning, and it was somewhat accurate, so we received one bid, and Wednesday's supposed to be the bid opening date for the planting of the trees at Glacier.
Okay.
So, I received an email when we got back from the meeting that I noticed that another contractor, the one who did all the streetscape plantings, said, some confusion, there's 2 dates I noticed, what does that represent, did we miss it? And I said, well, October 2nd was the due date, October 9th was gonna be the bid opening date, where if the contractor wanted to come and attend the bid opening. I said, if you're interested, I said, let me just inquire. So I went to Christine and I said, this is our situation. I said, we have one bid in. There's nothing to compare that to. I said, I don't know how you typically do that. And I said, the other person who's interested happens to be the one who won the streetscape. And I said, that's where we got the trees from and that's who did the planting. So, how do you wanna handle this? So basically she was able to check with legal, and I guess we will be able to sort of reissue after Wednesday, cause Wednesday we'll probably just open that bid and technically say, well, we can't accept at this time, cause we
There's
only
only
have
one.
one and we can't
Right.
compare. So, make it, the following Wednesday or the following Friday, and then, if we get the 2 bids in as we anticipate, then we'll be able to, award to
Good.
someone, so.
Is this a writing group?
No, I
No,
think
sir.
that's downstairs.
Are they meeting here today though, do you think?
Have no idea.
But
No.
you typically, we get that
Calendar.
question sort of every month, so
They
I
normally
think,
meet
yes,
downstairs?
I think so, yeah.
Maybe there'll be somebody else. Do you publicize
I
it?
did. I put it on that. I emailed it to a number of people that either I and or Steve sort of said you should email this to them, and then
Sure.
of course I did put it on bid.net, and
Okay.
I got that a lot of responses and whatnot. One of the things that had a few people drop out was after I issued the RFP, I then called our insurance agency, meaning the town of Newcastle, and there were a few items added in terms of upping certain coverages. And so when I went to the mandatory meeting of the contractors, which was September 24th, I think that was the day, it was a Tuesday, where I said, if you want to bid on this, you need to meet me at the site, 4 of them showed up. And one of them, when I handed the insurance requirements, they got back to me later in the week and they were like, does the umbrella really have to be $1 million, that's gonna cost us whatever, so that had them sort of back out.
Okay, so
So
that's
that
the
happens too,
situation. Right.
yeah,
Okay.
so that's kind of where we're at, and I don't remember the number frankly, but I don't expect it to exceed. The reason we're able to go through this, I guess according to legal, is that we don't anticipate that it's gonna exceed a certain dollar amount,
So
so as a
is the town
result,
paying for the installation, or is
it's-
it coming out of Glacier?
it's coming out of the Glacier
So,
Region
and how
Fund.
about the purchase of the trees, is that coming out of Glacier or the town?
I would say that's already been done,
No, I know it's already
have to
been
find
done,
out.
but I'm just
But
curious,
where's
does
the
it come
money
out of the Glacier fund or the town fund, or
I
do
think
we
the
know?
planting of these trees at Glacier is gonna come out of the Glacier
But
Fund.
the cost of the plants themselves, do you know if that's
I would have to
from-
check,
Yeah.
I would assume they did, because that's where they were going when Steve
Right, so when he-
dictated
so
to
you're-
me. He
do
said,
you
I
know
ordered
what-
these trees, you gotta find out where they're going in
When they're
Glacier.
2 for 1 kind of thing?
Yes,
Right,
you
but
got
what was-
50 for the price of 25.
So maybe the town did it initially and they're just gonna get reimbursed by the trust?
No, I imagine that he would have gone straight, if he knew it, if it was going to Glacier, I imagine it would have come right up. Do you know what the cost of the 50
Sometimes it
trees
takes
are?
time. To get money.
Well, I could tell you that, yeah, I can. So, according
Just
to this,
curious,
the
yeah.
total was $3,064
Okay,
for 25 trees.
And so we're gonna spend 3,000.
and then we're gonna
50 trees.
spend, right, for 25 trees, but we're really getting 50.
50
And then
trees.
how much is the, I'm just curious, how much is the
Bid.
bid for?
I didn't open it
installation.
yet, but Steve said, he's thinking it might be in the 15 range because it's installation and then
15,000.
6 months of monitoring.
Oh, right, of course, 'cause you wanna
Watering
make sure
until
that they.
December, and then, yeah, somebody's gotta make sure the deer fencing stays up in winter,
Yeah.
you know,
So
that's why I wrote that
15,000.
in.
So it's
Yeah,
almost
is that-
$20,000 out
Yeah.
of the $100,000 trust are going
Wow.
for these trees,
Right.
which,
$180
That's a lot.
something.
oh, is it 180?
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
it's more than
It's a lot
that
more
figure,
Oh.
than was thought initially.
yeah,
Oh,
I don't know
I
what
get,
it's
I must have
invested
missed
in.
that meeting then, because, no, because if it was 20 out of 100, that's 20% that went to buying trees that were not thought out in terms of where they would go. That's really what I wanted to say, but
right,
if it's 180, I guess it's
Less percent.
10%,
Right.
not quite 10%, but.
Well, I think
Okay.
it also shows us that although if it's 180, maybe not it's 160, it's not as much as you think it is when it comes to the labor
Oh,
part.
it goes fast, yeah.
Very
Yeah.
good point, right,
I mean,
no,
cause we
it's
sounded like,
expensive.
wow, 180,000, that's a lot,
right,
but it's really
And especially if it's gotta last forever.
I mean, I don't know
Well,
what
in
it's
perpetuity,
invested in.
Yeah,
yeah,
perpetuity,
yeah,
right?
exactly.
Yeah. I mean, do they have to, I don't even know how that works. I mean, how, I don't know what kind of interest they're getting, 'cause they
right.
Well,
can't
Yeah,
get
I,
much,
I'm not up
Nobody's
on the
getting
finance of
anything.
that,
unless
right,
they invest
right,
in certain bonds where you can get.
right, so are there gonna be cookie sales in the Glacier Preserve parking lot at
know.
some point?
And maybe we'll have
Or-
to do that, yeah.
Yeah,
I
okay,
don't know, or we need more grants,
Yeah, I
Right.
think that
On
would
top
be
okay,
a good
Right, well,
avenue
that's
to
the-
explore.
but maybe we're not
I
eligible
don't think we
if
can
we
make
have a
enough
trust.
cookies.
No, maybe we can, you know what we could have though, we could have Beehive and they sell the honey. We
Yeah,
haven't done that. We'd have to like rent out, have a beekeeper rent it out and share the profits. Wouldn't that be fun?
That'd be interesting.
okay, follow on. So this is,
Yeah, the trees in town,
yeah, and
downtown.
this is nice little, this is
People
nice,
were pretty happy about that this weekend, you know, we were here for the
yeah, no,
book fair.
and what's funny is that, to your comment about, you know, you get the trees and then you gotta figure it out. So I'll try to walk you through the history as best I can. So when I got slammed into this, it was us going to the nursery, and I know that we had anticipated 62 trees, right? We were eliminating the 3 that were in front of the shell because they gotta dig it up and change tanks. We're not messing with that now. So we were down to the 62. Of the 62, it looks like 58 we're gonna go into 58, it then got down to 58, where 52 were gonna go into pits, and 6 were gonna be planted, you know, there's one on the field here, there's a couple by the gazebo, so those aren't really in the street, per se, right? And so then, and we were gonna, at that time, we had 4 extras, so, okay, so now you gotta think about where you're gonna maybe put potentially extra trees. So there was the day when all this was like starting to really ramp up, where the contractor's like, where are the trees going and what are you doing? That's why I developed this. That I think I mentioned, do you know, she used to work for the town, I think she's on beautification now, Phyllis Fenari?
Oh, yeah,
Yeah,
she was in the building department
oh, okay,
forever.
yeah.
Yes.
She came in and it's like, Dennis, Phyllis wants to see you, and I said, okay, and this is all in my head, and it's like, whatever, and she wanted to walk me to the train station to show me something that, you know, who thought out the trees here and whatever, and I said, I'm too busy for this right now, I don't know if I could deal with that. Wait, I go, wait a minute, train station, trees, yeah, come on, let's take a walk, you know? So, I had an idea where I was gonna put the extra trees, and Jill was fine with it. So, and part of the reason why that some of these started to come off is that certain shopkeepers suddenly decided, as time went on, that they didn't want a tree in front of their establishment, so that was part of it.
But they're not always gonna be there.
Right, correct. So, but that's what reduced some of what was happening with respect to some of the trees that were cited. So now, for whatever reason, you know, a week passes and the contractor's like, you know, we're willing to put in 60 trees,
right,
okay,
we need to
and
know where.
the nursery delivers 62, 2 extra with the intention of, in case there's an issue, okay. So now the day comes where it's tree planting day, and our issues were, as we walk through Valhalla, Chappaqua together, so these are the 2 that went in by the town hall, these were the 2 horn beams, right? Yeah, those went in, that was fine. These are the 3 maples that went in by the gazebo, this one's actually on the field, and those are staked in, that's fine. That's the gas station where we said we're not worrying about it now. these are Zelkovias that went in, these are the maples that you love so much that went in, and the same over here. The Christmas tree did not go in. The Christmas tree was not available at the nursery, but we had it on, sort of, you could get it if we wanted it, but the problem is if you go there, the sign's still there and nothing's prepped, so if it came here, there was nowhere to put it. So that's why that stayed behind.
That's the triangle?
Yes.
Yeah, but these
and
two
that's-
trees are staying, correct?
Yes.
Those two beautiful.
Yes.
And that's gonna be a
Thank God.
Christmas tree for the, that's nice.
That's what we were thinking about,
So
yeah.
nice.
But for
It
some
was
reason,
decorated.
no, the sign is still there.
Right.
Nobody's shared that to me as to why. It's still a hardscape, so there's nothing to put the tree
Right,
into.
no, I
It's
understand what
not
you're
prepped.
saying. It would have been it is a cute idea to have a tree in the center of town though,
Right.
Like that, yeah.
for the
very
holidays,
much.
yeah.
These
Okay.
these were 7 Tillias, which I believe originally was supposed to be probably 9 or 10. So yeah, 10.
Right.
Request not to plant.
But why would the town allow that? I mean, it's
yeah.
supposed to be a plan for the
Mhm.
town. It has nothing to do with individual shopkeepers.
Right.
I mean, do they own the sidewalk to the street?
No,
I
they
I
do not.
highly doubt it, because then
Yes.
they would have certain, all kinds of liabilities, so I can't
Right.
understand why the town did that.
right.
They may have
Right.
responsibility for keeping it clear, even if they don't own it.
Well, but in New York City,
I think
for
the
instance,
response
it's
we
a-
got was there was they it was like a not NIMBY but NIFY. What would you say? Not my front yard. I mean, it was like they wanted
Because
a
I
tree
think
lined street, but not necessarily a tree in front of their place.
But I think it
was
looks
one
so
of those deals.
unattractive where the
They have a
trees
good
are
spot.
missing. I can't understand why
Yeah.
the town, so that's it, they can't
Well,
change it.
there's always a future. I mean, we're not. I
just don't
think it was
understand.
this
They're
was an
probably so
acquiesce
upset,
now.
everybody's so upset.
I get, right, but what I
Now,
don't
but-
understand is if they paid all this money for, and hired these
Right.
consultants and this plan was done,
Mm-hmm.
that would have been the time to say something, but even then, unless, as an
Yeah.
attorney, unless
Yeah,
they
yeah.
own that
Right,
piece
it's
of
not theirs to
property
say,
and
yeah.
they wanna have that liability, which I doubt any
They will not
establishment
do.
would want. I don't understand why,
Mm.
I really don't, it's very disappointing, cause it's funny, because I was gonna ask you,
Mhm.
I drove around and I thought, what happened here?
Some things were like.
It just doesn't
Yeah.
look right, it's
Right.
not balanced.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's really unfortunate, because the trees are small,
Right.
and,
Well, yeah,
I
oh, that's fine.
I just, what if the shopkeeper leaves?
Yeah. Well, that's the right. Right.
I mean,
So
do
do
they
we have
want,
the extra trees just sitting somewhere still, or did you get them all on the ground?
I guess you didn't go to the train station. That'll be the
Oh,
end
okay,
of the
so
story.
Yeah, no, they're at the, I'm sorry, I was
I
just,
haven't
yeah,
seen
no,
it.
they're at the
Did
train
you check?
station.
Yeah.
So tell us.
station, but I
Yeah.
didn't see it.
So right, so that was these 7. So this page takes care of the issues with right. There were requests not to plant for the Tilia, and then the Christmas tree didn't make it because that wasn't ready, right?
Right, well,
Okay.
that makes sense.
This we knew about beforehand. So again, things were okay, we were accommodated. Here, you get there, this one couldn't go in, there were issues, I guess, some of these pits made it tight. This is in front of the parking lot of where the Rite Aid was, I guess,
Oh,
over there,
okay.
okay?
Yeah,
But I think
And-
those trees look pretty good.
They do. The problem is that when we were walking through, I was walking through with the landscape contractor the day before, there's some sort of conduit that was kind of cutting through, so
Oh, I
it was
saw
a question of when the ball comes,
Yeah.
can we do it, can we
Right,
not do
right.
it,
It's also in front of Susan Lawrence, because I was there one day and they were doing it, and you could see there was this pipe
Yeah,
that was going through
yeah,
one of the
Right.
pits that they were digging, and I was thinking, how in the world are they gonna get a tree there?
sometimes you can, sometimes you can't, and I think
Um,
that's what ended up happening with that one.
That looks fine, cause those trees are slightly larger.
Yeah. Here there was no pit, so, okay, can't put a tree there. This one, again, it looks like it's kind of sunken in this fashion, but it's all hardscape, so that wasn't ready. And here there was an oil tank, so all of a sudden these 3
Where's
are
the
out.
oil tank?
Right there,
Gas
for
station.
that one, yeah. That's a,
Is that the
No,
gas?
No.
That's
No,
a
that's-
remnant
yeah.
something or other,
Right.
right? Cause there were all kinds of things around here, like Humble Oil was here a long, long time ago. There was
This
a lot
is
of
the
stuff
little,
going
this
on.
is where like Starbucks is,
Right,
right? When it
right,
was the
exactly.
Starbucks.
Right, there
So
was
it's like
across from
something,
Starbucks,
well,
yeah.
no, I know what it is, because across the way was, where they now have the curve, that was a gas station.
It was years ago.
Yeah, yeah. And then they made that building out of it, so maybe they never, remediated
and took out the
some of,
whatever.
well, the laws were different
Yeah,
then.
true.
and I think one of
Right.
these were eliminated because we had an extra cherry. I remember there was like something over here, and I think somebody said it was eliminated because it became I think a line of sight
Oh,
issue,
for
so
the
the DOT
traffic.
was like, can't put the tree there, we're like,
Probably
okay,
that one,
fine.
right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
so
Okay,
so these are the ones that all went in, so when I was driving home Wednesday evening, granted these were planted on Friday, I then had a small panic, cause I said to myself, okay, if I'm gonna put them in the train station, where, I'm sorry, I just wanna show you guys, which you kinda know, those were the red buds that went in right where the Rite Aid was, so those look good.
I think
actually.
those are very
Yeah,
pretty,
yeah,
I
those
wish
are
we had
good.
more of those.
Yeah, I like
Those
them.
If
are
anybody
really
wants a
pretty.
red bud, I have lots of babies at my house.
Beautiful, really
I have
pretty tree.
tons of babies,
Ooh,
tons. I
okay.
can't give them away quick enough, honestly, I
No.
have so many. Yeah.
So this is the
I
strip.
have little ones, big
Oh, I'm sorry.
ones.
No.
Okay, I take one.
So I'm sorry, say what you do?
No, so this is the strip at the train station where they ended up going in, it was, I know it was after that, these are some ratty white cedars that, you know, one's
Okay.
topped, the other's dying, so I know that's what Phyllis was showing me,
Mhm.
like, what was this plan, I says,
Yeah.
I don't know what the plan was, but I said we should put them here.
Yeah,
My concern Wednesday driving home was that it just hit me, I'm like, why are there not trees there, please don't tell me I got utility issues,
Oh,
so on
geez.
Thursday,
Oh.
I got to walk around with Bart and I think Frank at DPW, and there was thankfully just this one small depression where they said we kind of have a small sprinkler water thing that goes through here. I said, fine, I can avoid that. So there are 3 Tilia and 4 cherries, 3 Yochinos and
No,
1
nice.
Canadian that are all kind of all in
Well,
here.
no, that's nice because a while ago, they took away a lot of trees at the train
Oh,
station.
okay.
I always thought it was sad because
Yeah.
there used to be more trees.
I mean, and understand too, like, you have to put it in an area
Yeah.
where like there's gonna be some continued care.
right.
Right.
So like the joke was, you know, when people looked at me like, can you find extra places for trees? I'm like, I know where you're going. I go, no, I'm not running to Gedney Park to place these trees. I
Yeah.
said they're never gonna, I get it. It has to be within this certain
Right.
radius of this project, so.
Right.
So thankfully, that's sort of how that worked out on
Oh, that's
on
great.
Friday. So they're in, I you know, I kind of walked everything today just to make sure I knew what I was talking about and relaying it to you, because, you know, the numbers get confusing very fast all of a sudden, where it's like, there's an oil tank here, where are we putting this, you know, what about that? No, those are 2 extra, you don't get that, I'm like,
Yeah,
okay,
on the site,
Wow.
it's
Okay.
different, yeah.
So,
what 60 do we get, you know?
so was that fun or stressful?
Uh,
To
both.
me, it'd be stressful.
It was, but there was a fun element to it. You know, I mean, I would joke around with the guys. I'm like, so who's doing the Dominus Omnis Vobiscum for every tree that goes in? You gotta
Yeah.
bless them, of course. You know,
Yeah.
and they got a kick out of that. Contractor guys today, I told them, I said, listen, I'm supposed to sing to every one of these trees, but if you guys want to break out in song, I said,
Oh,
you'd be
that's
more than
cute.
happy.
Yeah,
I said, they're street trees. They could tolerate a lot of types of music. You know, what I mean? So you don't
that's
have to worry
nice.
about that. So
So that pipe that goes across seems to be the one that goes to where
The bulb garden.
the bulb garden is, yeah.
I think that
Yeah.
they said that was the
Okay.
for hydration. Yeah. So
Okay.
so I got to avoid that.
So,
I wonder, yeah.
no, they don't have, I was in Briarcliff the other day and they were planting trees there as well, but they
Mhm.
had the little green bag thing at the bottom.
The,
Yeah.
Why don't we have the green bags?
I guess because the contractor's supposed to water. I don't know why we don't have green
instead of doing
bags.
that.
Yeah,
Whatever- But,
that's the idea.
They
Yeah,
guarantee the trees for you,
2 years I believe.
so.
So yeah, they have to. So I just I thought some of these were interesting. This was actually all that was happening at the train station with respect to, it's just like a simple board that they kind of offload and carry. And this was interesting too, because I really did not have familiarity with what structural soil was. Like nobody could explain it to me. I couldn't understand it. So
Okay,
now
Aaron.
I'm finally looking at it, and you know, when I first saw it, I'm like, okay, what is this, like some red parent material from Arizona? Like I just didn't know, like what is this? So the Ascape Landscape, who, you know, supplied the trees and planted them, and I remember him telling me something about it when we were at his yard in Blauvelt in Rockland. So this is basically a gravel. It's like a rough edge gravel, right? It's not smooth, polished, whatever. And they have their own specifications whereby, you know, they have to add, I guess, certain elements. There's a strong clay component in there to me, organics, and this gentleman, Gary Capodici, was telling me that they have to send it out every once in a while to whatever, you know, soils testing lab to make sure that those compositions are still, you know, within certain percentages and that they're still meeting their specifications. And when I actually got to grab like some of this stone and like, you know, there was a strong clay component. So now it was making some sense to me. I'm like, okay. So you're not really planting these trees in just pure rock, you know what I mean? It's like that there are elements of
capture the
soil
water.
in there, water, nutrients, etc. And then, as it was explained to me, the reason you use structural soil in the street environment is that because of the gravel and the porosity, you're almost creating a path of least resistance for the roots. And you
Right.
try to encourage that
Right.
to discourage the,
Buckle.
you know, right,
Yeah.
wanting to do
Ah,
everything
huh.
else.
So interesting.
So it's that way of sort of engineering make it all come together and make it work for the tree
Wow.
and for the hardscape.
Wow,
So
scientific.
I thought that was very interesting. The other
They develop.
technique he told me, which sounds really crazy, and he said it's very expensive, is if you could picture buying like shelving, say you put it in your garage or your basement or something like that, that they actually have like that for subsurface. So in essence, like you're benching
Yep.
underground and creating the spacing, and I'm like looking at him, I go, how strong do those, he goes, they gotta be very strong, it's expensive, and it takes time to do that. I said, yeah, I would imagine, I says, because you have to sort of create
Yeah,
this
you've got
environment and
underneath.
control the sidewalls and makes, I said,
Mhm.
that seems, and you know, I don't know if one is so much more successful than the other that it warrants and justifies that expense and extra time,
yeah.
maybe it does, maybe
I
it
don't
doesn't,
know, yeah.
so, but this is what was agreed to for streetscape, so I figured I try to at least come up with some of the visual, because honestly,
Thank you.
before I
that's so
saw it,
nice.
Thank
I
you
could,
for
I
that.
could not honestly
Yeah.
explain what was gonna
Yeah.
happen to you, and I could not, whatever. Oh, I'm sorry.
Writers group?
Downstairs,
Oh.
we think.
Yeah.
Um,
Go ahead, Karen, I'm
I'm
sorry.
just curious, cause they were, they're on the smaller side, is there a particular reason for that, was it cost or?
Meaning what, the trees?
Yeah.
Yeah,
They're very, I mean,
They're small
they're
on purpose.
small,
Right,
I mean,
yeah.
They
like-
take better that way,
yeah, the larger trees,
larger calibers.
it's more of a risk, you know, in terms of, you get more of that instant tree effect, but
long
survivability goes
time.
down in
Because they
terms of-
have, the way they
the
dig them,
chance.
they cut the roots, so like if you have a smaller tree, you're not cutting, like when you have a large tree and they take a tree spade and they just, you're really cutting off, you know, I don't know, 50% of the roots or something,
Yeah,
but
when you
yeah.
have to ball it, yeah.
And you have to, yeah,
And
the,
Well, it was surprising in a way that the whatever you
Oh,
wanna
the
call
grate
it,
was
the
small?
well, the grate is small, but also the area.
Right.
Like, I'm surprised in the design, instead of like a box, like why didn't they have like circles? Do you know what I mean, like
Right,
a
right.
circle so that,
oh, the grate.
yeah, so
yeah.
that in other words, to accommodate the tree, like straight but circle, you know what I mean, that kind of thing, but I don't know if that.
I don't know if that was aesthetic or just, I mean, but I think the idea with the structural soil is that you,
Oh,
it
right.
is, you know,
Yeah.
it's all under there, so the tree does
Yeah.
go
Go
down
down.
Yeah,
as opposed to sideways. But why they chose a square,
I
a
mean, it seems
rectangle
so
versus a
small,
circle,
like,
Right.
it seemed like such a small area to.
and
Like
even
opening-
and
even
even the opening, I thought, I agree, I
It's
think that
very
seems
small.
small, like, so you've got a 2-inch caliber
what-
tree, but you've got maybe a 5-inch.
Right, what's gonna happen
yeah,
when
over
it
time, yeah,
grows?
we'll see, that's definitely down the road.
That's a
issue.
good
Yeah,
point,
yeah.
actually, now that you point
And I
it out.
think
It's like
honestly,
choking it,
I
like I
think-
was thinking of that, somebody was talking about that thing that girdles
Girdling
the-
roots and
Yeah.
stuff,
Yeah. I mean, we'll see, cause I think there is like an inhibiting effect by design with respect to some of this, that, you know, how big are
But
these
are
trees
the
really
trees
going to get
supposed
in
to
this
last
environment?
5 years, 10 years, 15, 20? Like that somebody must have thought,
Yeah, no, I think,
somebody thought of like,
I think they're supposed to last, but they're not supposed to reach 60 feet in height, you know what I mean, so I think that's kind of
Right.
the,
They're kinda
the balance
stunting
there.
them?
I think some of
No,
these
they're not
species
big.
don't
no, they're not
necessarily
supposed, they're
get to 60
chosen not to
feet in
be,
height, yeah.
they're
Right.
chosen
Like a
not to
redbud
be 60 feet in
Doesn't
height.
get that.
Right,
Right,
redbud's
I'm
not
sure
gonna
the
get
calipers
get to- yeah.
is
Right, they
thought
don't
of,
want
but you're right,
towering,
Karen,
but
cause it really is kind
I
of
was
a
just
small.
disappointed to see like this little tiny, after all this, like this
That's
big
true,
of
the
holes.
holes are,
I'm like,
Yeah, they're not
why?
that big. Although I do like the grates. I like what
The
they
grate
designed.
is pretty.
Oh, I like the grades, absolutely, but I don't know why they're not, again, I was
But
in
yeah, you're-
Briarcliff and it was it's still a new tree. It kinda looked a little better, it had the green bag, the grate was bigger, like, I
But these
think,
grates are small, now that
think
you
it's gonna
pointed out
live.
to me, I didn't think about it, but you're right, they're small.
So that's a good, the
I
question
wonder
then
if
is
they're
really
like
the
10 inches
concern
across.
They're
is
very
that the
small.
opening,
Yeah.
the circle opening
I
for
don't know
the
if it's
tree
cost.
Right.
seems
and they're
small.
like not much
Okay.
bigger than the.
Compared
At
to
what
what
point
the
is
tree-
that gonna be impacted, right,
Yeah.
Not much.
right, it's not gonna be in 5 years, but like in what point is
Yeah.
that, right,
No,
okay.
that's
then
a
what's the
really
plan?
good point, Karen.
Yeah.
I'm actually
And
now I
then
wanna go
replace it.
measure because you're right,
Yeah.
they are like with a 2-inch caliper, but it still feels like there's another 2 inches around on each side, which
I don't know.
is not a lot. I mean, I know they're not supposed to to be.
Yeah, but redbud is not a giant tree, but the
No, the base.
trunk
You
can
can
be
get a
this
big
big.
trunk, yeah,
No,
you can have
that's
a big
fine.
trunk and a
Yeah.
short tree, or not a short.
Yeah, no,
but
it's
a-
not like, it's not staying 2 inches, I mean, they get big. It's not like this big, but it's,
Right, it's not
This
an
big.
oak, but it's.
I mean, I hope they can address it before it becomes a problem, cause I could see
it's
it
a.
becoming a
Right,
problem.
that'll be new, sidewalk covers in the next.
I was just gonna say that
10
that's
years from now,
that's
yeah,
what
that's
it's
it.
planned obsolescence, right?
That's how it would work,
what they're
yeah.
planning for that, so
Okay,
they
what else
did
we
it on
got?
purpose.
cause
And
I
I
have to leave.
Yeah, I have
It's
to go in
leaving
just
5
a minute,
minutes and I'm
yeah,
That's fine.
5 minutes, sorry.
Thank you, Dennis, that was
Yeah,
very,
this is very
Thank you.
helpful,
this is very
thank you.
helpful to this.
Both of these
I know
things.
That sums up that.
Yeah, Steve always talked about structural soil, but we never saw it. It's kinda cool.
Yeah, right.
this is cool.
So I just emailed you guys all the individual weekly bloom lists because I couldn't get them to come as one
Yep.
Oh, thank you for doing that.
folder, so
Yeah.
that's good,
Thank
and that
you.
that could probably help you going forward. This I pulled out because I just wanted to make sure. So this is the Horace Greeley patch of land issue, is this what you're talking about?
You know what I figured out, I think Chappaqua Crossing owns it or takes care of it,
Probably.
because I saw the same uniformed people doing things within Chappaqua Crossing.
Okay,
So it's, let me see, it's where the white, yeah, here we
I
are.
think this is where you come out right from the, there's a road here now, I mean, that's the problem, I know this is an older aerial,
Sorry.
but I think that's the road itself.
South Farms Road, oh, right, okay,
It looks like this little,
actually South, oh, that's what they call it, Greeley's?
yeah, I didn't realize that
This is the old
either.
parking lot. Yeah, it's right here.
That ratty piece, yeah, it's pretty
right.
good.
Mhm.
And I'd be curious to know what you could plant there, cause I'm like, I was saying to you this morning. So, okay, so you got a school on one side, you have residential, commercial on the other. That area is gonna get whacked with big piles of snow and salted to
Right,
death,
I
and
think you need
it's
something
like,
low. Can you ever do anything, I don't know if anyone likes heather or if it's even appropriate.
I
I
what
think
would,
it's too wet.
what would
It'll be
survive?
too wet,
Yeah,
will
yeah.
survive with all the snow if you're doing.
Salt tolerant,
snow,
physical
yeah.
impacts, I'm concerned, it would be all the candidates that nobody wants and or you probably can't have because they're worried about site, it would be taxes,
Site
it would be
visit.
privet, it would be things that,
Well, what about just the ground cover being something that's not grass?
right,
Like,
like
Not
one of those
turf, you
creeping
mean?
juniper or something like
yeah,
that,
something
No,
that,
don't do that.
you plant on a
No?
dune, but it
You
wouldn't
like
be
that?
that.
How come, it gets all the,
I don't know.
as opposed to mowing half grass, half dirt, okay, that's it, sorry,
I mean, is there anything that's native that
Yes.
works as a ground
sure.
cover? That's a good thing, that's
Yes,
low?
there's tons.
Cause I understand you can't have it high, because
Right.
that would be dangerous for
Yeah.
driving.
yeah,
Which is the.
It's something
patch
like
you're
low
talking about?
maintenance.
This is,
Like
this is
if
the
we're-
center, it's
Yeah,
this little
we're-
guy here, so this is an old,
it's just that one right there, yeah, I think that's
Oh.
it,
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
it's
all,
like
it's
a
different
Oh,
now.
where they've got all the rows of
Like in
sherry?
the Cape, there's bearberry or something like
No,
that.
there's nothing
Further
on it.
down, this was a,
There's
this one,
nothing on it?
this
It's
was
just crummy
actually
grass.
added, I
That's
think
in the
as
middle
part
of
of
the
the
road.
road.
Yeah, I think so.
It's-
Oh, where they
it's-
had the contractor, they had all the grass in there and.
It's like
Yeah.
super unattractive.
Oh, just,
Just
yeah,
flat grass.
Like just
Yeah.
Pecora, or
No,
the other
not
one.
packer.
Not
That went
packer.
over.
No?
No, you could put you could put some kind of like a hell strip grass type thing in
The
there.
little grass. the little-
But it's just who's gonna, are they gonna really take care of it or what are they gonna do?
Well, did you ever find, I mean, is it then theirs?
This is where all the rows of sherry
I,
is going that way.
I know it's in the middle of the road, that's all I know,
Yeah.
but,
Because it wasn't there before.
No, it was
Right,
there
right.
for the construction.
Right, so
Yeah.
what was there? It was just the road.
It's just the road.
yeah.
Mhm.
So then wouldn't it be the towns? 'Cause
why
it
did
was
they,
the road.
why did they leave it?
No,
No, they
it was
put it in.
created.
They
So
put it
to make the
in.
separation
It was
between.
never
Oh, I
there.
see.
Yeah,
To
it
make the
was created.
separation from,
Right.
I think
Oh,
it's
I see.
traffic
Okay, so that's the
patterns
reason.
also to,
Yeah. I mean, you could recommend it, but who's taking care of it? DPW? Or?
No, well, I think this, unless DPW hires this company, beginning with an L, which I saw
Oh.
working within Chappaqua
Right.
Crossing.
I'm not aware of that,
Yeah, I don't know.
would
that
just think-
anybody for the town, it's Parks does mowing,
Yeah, that's what I would
DPW does, yeah, I don't think we have a landscape, even here at town hall, I see the guys with, once
Yeah,
a week
they're
mowing and
just
weed
town-
whacking, it's not a
yeah.
private landscape
No,
company,
it's
so,
just
So it couldn't be.
DPW.
yeah,
Yeah.
So maybe we could still find out, I don't know why Chappaqua Crossing would actually own it,
right,
because how could they?
right,
Maybe they-
or do they just agree to maintain it?
They might have
you
just
know,
agreed,
That's
yeah,
what-
to
exactly.
to
Right.
alleviate from us, okay.
That,
Well, who planted the Rose of Sharon?
That was existing, but they planted all around it
No,
when
I
they
mean
did
going
the.
back, I mean, I know that they're
Oh,
So-
going back, I don't.
yeah,
know
it's
it.
kind of,
I
you
think
know,
the
it's
neighborhood probably might have done things
maybe,
like,
yeah.
cause there's
In
quite
the
a nice
house
little,
strips, really?
maybe because they were kind of looking at something, I mean, that was, I think a little community in a way, that it's kind of been destroyed a bit because there were houses on the other side.
Right.
And it probably who really did it was Reader's Digest.
Maybe, yeah.
Because there's a very pretty house with a very pretty window that was actually the Reader's Digest library.
Oh, was it? I know that house.
And they did a lot of things for the town over time, so I
Sure.
suspect
Yeah,
that
that would
That
make
could
maybe
have
that's
been-
how it
yeah.
started.
Okay.
Okay.
Cause those houses were taken down that were owned by Reader's
Yeah.
Digest.
Right, I remember that,
Right, I
yeah.
remember that
So-
too, yeah.
Maybe they just inherited it and then they mitigated it.
Cause they did a lot of planting in there, they've done a lot of plantings in that area.
I mean, maybe they could do some kind of planting, something that, it just looks so awful. I think,
Understood, no, I understand.
it's unfortunate. I mean, but,
It's the one time, right, and nobody wants to return it to pavement, but, or whatever, right, cause they need to be erased. But then it would get, that would get beat up by the plow, so they wouldn't want that either.
Yeah,
It was
you
a
need
whole-
something that
It's
can
hard.
take
No, they
salt,
need the curbing.
salt, snow,
Yeah.
melt, wet.
Yeah.
you could
Dry.
have plastic flowers
Right.
and a couple of flamingos, that would be interesting.
So to your point, this is what Parks shared with me, they do not have a formal, for the Boy Scout volunteer, they said they just have someone fill out an application form.
Okay.
That is it, that's what their requirements are for that. I figured I'd share that with you.
Alright,
I think
thank you,
I
Miss,
have to,
yeah,
Okay,
I have to go.
Thanks,
early
guys.
too.
yep, cool,
Thank you.
alright,
Alright, have a good night.
you too.
We're actually almost done anyway, so
Yeah.
thank you,
I know,
Miss.
I know we're
yeah,
close,
yeah, yeah.
but I-
Yeah, you gotta go, yeah.
Well,
Okay.
this is interesting. Have you ever been convicted of a felony or misdemeanor?
Oh, I had to fill all that out too in order to get this job, yeah.
List any physical handicaps or allergies.
Between being able to
That's why.
coach girls softball and this, it was like, yeah, you gotta put me through the ringer, that's exactly, it's the world we live in, I expect that.
So this is for the Boy Scouts.
Yeah, that's what they do, they just do
They do the
they do an
same
employment
one.
application, that's exactly how they do it.
Do they have a parent sign it if they're under a certain age?
That's a good question, I did not ask that question.
I would think they should,
Signature of interviewer, signature of applicant,
because if he's under a certain age, he's
Right.
not bound
Can't
to a
sign.
contract.
yep,
Yes.
okay, that's fair.
I don't know though, because when my children had summer jobs, I don't remember signing anything.
Were they with the town?
No,
See, I think the
like
town,
lifeguards, you know,
well, that's, yeah,
a company, you know,
because technically.
they had to do their own W-4,
Oh, yeah.
they had
How
to
old were
sign
they
that.
though?
They're under 18, cause they were summer
Yeah.
jobs, when they were in high school and stuff, so I don't know, but
That's the true one,
I don't know,
Cause I know the town's
okay.
yeah.
cautious.
So,
Anyway, so that's it, right?
the last thing, yeah, I just wanna,
Yeah.
because this is like,
Can't read, even though I have new glasses.
just so that you guys know what's going on, cause I don't know what's going on. So, now that the trees are in,
Yes.
the next thing that
Thank you.
bounced my way was, you know, what about shrubs,
Yeah.
what about these herbaceous plants, what about vine covers, what about, and these are all line items, you know, from the original bid analysis and
Oh,
whatever,
okay.
so like, are they going in, are they not, are they ready, should they not be, you know, this is our MBE, you know, we need to satisfy this, so, on Friday, when I was running around worrying about the trees, I know I saw Jill and Ivy and Chief of Police and everybody, and I think that was the focus of them, like trying to do additional walks to see where things would go, because what I got thrown at me, this is from January of 2017. So I kind of walked through the town and, you know, where they previously had identified where they were gonna put shrubs, and they were all based on these sort of
Are they gonna be in
the
planters?
the nomenclature, some are, but that's not what these were for, these were actually plants that were going to go in. And, you know, not to rush this, and Jill and I had spoke a bit about this and she was in agreement, I said, you know, there's some things, I said, if we need to sort of push the envelope of like, well, we gotta get something in because we need to satisfy something, I said, some of these areas, it's possible to put something, like for example, I said, okay, so where you turn in to get to this parking lot, here they identified, in 2017, some of those Happy Returns Day lilies. I said, right now, this is just an area that's mowed, there's a couple trees and it goes down to I said, if you wanna try to put some flowers here, I said, okay, that's fine, this was not impacted by the work, nobody's gonna dig this up, nobody's looking to put more concrete, I said, if you need to just do something. But the majority of this is either A, areas are not ready, or B, I think it requires more thought, like behind the pizzeria and then to the side of the bank, like that sort of unit.
Yeah.
There are plantings in, should they all come out and start fresh? I don't think so.
Oh, no.
Are there ways to enhance? Yes,
Yeah.
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But that's not a slam together, get it done in a couple days kind of thing, you know?
Right.
And then the other issue, and this is a fact of life too, when it comes to botanicals, is, I'm sorry I left it inside, but somebody had a plan that they designed for, I guess now there's a sign, right? The electronic sign's right about here.
Oh, that, you mean
Okay,
that
by
thing?
Bell.
Yes, so you could ignore this is something that's sold, because this is from the sign. So, in that plan, includes boxwood. Well, that was from 2017, so now it's like, okay, you can't get this, and if you do, it's not gonna be guaranteed, so
Right.
like, so again, like little things like that,
Right.
like this to me takes more thought, like the trees you kinda knew, you knew where they were gonna go, that was the focus, the pits were prepped, everything's good, oh, we got extra, what do we do with them, that's great, we'll put them at the train station, whatever, I said, this sort of has like a different approach. So now, like I'm at a point where I'm trying to figure out, if it's not gonna happen now, then it would be nice going forward to, obviously, for us to sort of talk and get some input and make some
Yeah.
recommendations and
Yeah.
whatnot, so that we don't have to slam this, 'cause
Right,
I'm-
and also do a good job, like we could do all natives and,
Oh, yeah, no,
and,
that, for sure.
What is going, I mean, where there had been trees for some reason that they took down, and I remember when they were put in, where the gas station was, when you kind of, now they're gonna have a light and you take a right to go up the hill, that,
Right.
where they're putting in a
Yeah.
bench. There are like no trees there, like what's gonna happen
I mean,
with
as you
that?
continue past the ones that we planted,
Well, I mean, in other words, if you're
Like
driving
great
out of
stuff.
here,
Going up King Street?
going up, you take a right to go up King Street, and on that corner, like where the office building is, which is where the gas station was many years ago, where there's Family Britches in Petticoat Lane. You're taking a right, and they took out the little side road to make it a basically square intersection. I see they're building a bench and there's like a ton of concrete.
yeah, there's a ton of concrete there, yeah.
Like
Like right over
there's-
here.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
the
mean,
city
it's like
yes.
a plaza.
Yeah,
What is that gonna be?
I-
There's no
I
greenery.
I'll have to ask, but I have a feeling that,
It looks
a lot of the
awful.
planters that they ordered and whatnot, I have a feeling that's where a lot of that
Okay, cause
would
I
go.
mean, I have to
'Cause I
say,
agree, there's
it
nothing
is
there.
very
There's nothing
unattractive,
botanical
and we
there,
look like
no.
we're in the middle of, some
Queens?
city.
Yeah.
Yeah, could be. I mean, I don't understand that either, I don't know. There's a lot of
Yeah, 'cause
concrete.
that was the last tree, that
Yeah.
one went in and then, yep, it just, well, I know.
I mean, there's a lot of concrete in this plan that is not, the trees aren't sufficient to soften the look. And I don't understand how that happened unless the thought was to make it look more like a city than the, hamlet of Chappaqua.
Right, and again, I don't know how things necessarily evolved either, but kinda, when I was going through, that's all right, yeah, so, as long as it's all the red one, I know about that. This is what I also was given originally.
Right, I mean, I know you inherited, I'm just
Right,
asking questions.
and no, and to your point, in order to develop this, I had to go through this, right? And I'm trying to figure out, okay, oh, there's a tree here, there's a tree here, there's a tree here, and again, this is 2017, so they apparently had maybe thought of putting more trees, cause I had to X out a lot, cause I'm like, this no longer applies, that no longer applies,
And they had a
and
lot
really
of-
just focus on those.
Pretty trees there, but
So,
it's sad.
I mean, look, here you go on, I know the print doesn't work, so you can't tell, but this is like really by the triangle, I mean, look at all these trees that,
Oh, that just
had
looks
to X
horrible.
out, and this, well, those were just those three, but they were gonna put so many more here that just didn't happen,
But I still, I know I sound like a broken record, but I don't understand it, cause that really, I'm like, what?
These actually went in, so,
What happened?
right, things got cut for those, for the reasons that I was kinda mentioning, they were gonna put two all the way up here, those didn't make it, those got
Which
stopped
one, where?
past your plaza. I thought there was supposed to be like some sort of, I assumed this was gonna be some sort of planting well or pit or something like that, but now, there, that is that sea of concrete, so, I mean,
It is totally a sea of
Well,
concrete,
you
and
know
it's
that-
all an impervious surface, which
It
is
was
not gonna help.
right, putting Silcovies here, they've got, you know, there's, again, there were more trees here that I had to sort of say, don't focus on this, there's nothing here, just,
I
you
mean,
know, come up with this.
but looking at that right now, cause they've got some kind of weird slanty thing,
Yeah,
it's all impervious.
right,
And we have a winter with rain and ice and
right,
snow,
right,
and there's no drainage. So, I don't know what's gonna happen, it's gonna be like a little,
I thought drainage was part of this though.
well,
That was when
there's no drainage in that area, if you go look, you will see.
Huh.
In the winter, that is gonna be a disaster. I mean, because of the way, you know what I'm talking about, that
Right.
weird, there's
Yeah.
no, why didn't they make it like, you could have, you know, that pretty, you can have grass and, you know, the pervious kind of cover that's
Yeah.
somewhat concrete, but it's just like grass and it's really attractive because
Right.
it brings the green and the white. Why didn't they do that there?
I don't
That's
know,
one of the
there,
many
it
questions.
is, it is a lot
Yeah.
of hardscape.
Yeah.
It's
Now,
way
I
too
know
much.
that
Right.
the garden club, well, I know that there's 57 planters that are of 3 different heights, and they're quite, they're of different heights, but they're big, that are supposed to be placed by the town soon, like after the sidewalks are in, and then the garden club is gonna be planting something in them, I don't know
That'll be
what.
nice.
Yeah, I don't know what's gonna be planted yet, I didn't hear that, but, you know, I know I'm gonna be assigned some pots, I mean, they told me that
Right.
you gotta do that, but I don't know when it's gonna happen or what's gonna be in them,
Right,
but there's a lot of them in the big,
okay,
Or maybe
Pretty
that'll
wide.
cover that. What about also, you know, we were talking about the clock. There's
right,
like a
The mums.
yeah,
now,
yeah,
but we were going to be able to help maybe
Correct.
select some
correct,
shrubs to go in
that's,
there.
that's
Part of that too.
part of this scope,
Okay,
right.
good.
You gotta understand, yeah, Friday late
man.
afternoon,
No.
Jill comes to my desk, she goes, we need soil in the clock pit. I said, okay, so I'm running around, I grab the tree planting guys, I'm like, you got any extra soil from the trees going in the train station, whatever? They're like, no, you don't generate that much. And then I had to, you know, grab the other dentist on the front end loader, I said, dude, you got soil for me? He goes, oh, there's some here, and so he called me back later in the day. Thankfully Jill was on the phone because I was gonna deliver bad news, like I can't get soil, and then all of a sudden he called and she's still on the phone and I'm like, oh, we can get soil? Yeah, guys are gonna stay, do it. I go, great. And then I walk by today and I'm like, they just dropped the pots just to make it look good for the book fair
Right,
for Monday,
exactly,
so
yeah,
that was it.
Oh,
So,
that's why they were rushing?
Yeah, everything was trying to get done for the book fair.
yeah,
A lot of the stuff was.
yeah.
Oh, that's interesting.
Isn't that
Yeah.
nice? Yeah.
So trees were going in
Out of-
and there's
out of
stuff
the
in scarecrows, you know what I mean? It was like all happening at the same
Well,
time.
such a
It was
big
kinda
community
fun.
thing. People are coming from all over to this thing.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I was,
Pennsylvania,
Wow, really?
the city, a lot of families from the city.
Interesting, okay.
Yeah.
what, that's, really?
now where is the clock? I don't think I've.
Oh,
It's right in front
near
of,
Citibank.
yeah, by Citibank.
Okay.
That
It's
little
on the side
plaza.
of the-
Mary and
Okay.
Who's what's it?
Before you get to the
Seneca,
triangle, in fact, it might be
wherever it is,
shown, that's it,
that
right
little
there,
area
basically,
was
in
kind
that
of-
location, there's the
Mary and
triangle.
Seneca,
And that's
Oh,
it.
was it?
because she was
Okay.
named
Right.
after
Oh.
her.
And again, like,
But
for this plan,
like a little
you know, there were
area.
3, I crossed them out.
It'd be nice to have that Christmas.
They had
Yeah.
trees in there, they had 3,
Tree
it was like
holiday
one of
tree.
these cherries, and I look up the size of what that cherry's gonna be, and I'm like, again, I don't know, that's not gonna work in this clock, those are gonna be too damn big, I don't understand what.
In with the clock?
Well, that, again, this is 2017, whatever this was, whoever,
Yeah.
however, so I just like quickly said, alright, why don't you put some of the, something ilex in there, you
Yeah.
know, get something that's an evergreen, and then,
Yeah.
but just plant maybe 2 or maybe 3, like in a triangular pattern, and then you have spacing in between to do additional, but that's what I'm saying, like,
You wanna think about it.
correct,
Yeah,
you can't
yeah,
just
yeah, no.
slam that together,
Yeah, don't let
you know,
them, yeah.
right,
No,
Resist.
right, I will, I'll do my best,
I
but.
mean,
And also
Yeah.
too, in even giving you those bloom lists, like the other sort of thing I was thinking about is that I know T-Town does it. You know, around Mother's Day, a lot of these, who's got plant sales, who's got, and
Yeah.
T-Town definitely has a lot of native plants, cause I know Leah, who's the curator of Wildflower Island, that, you know, I volunteer with, that, you know, she'll, from the island, like, you know, take plants and put them in small pots and leave them
Sell.
on the island in a little nursery area, and then bring them out to sell the following year for
Sure.
the little native section, and so there's options, you know, like
Oh, yeah.
from the native perspective, you know, so.
We can get the plants.
Yeah.
They're between us and Missing and, you know, all these other organizations. That's not the problem.
Right,
The problem is the design.
Mhm.
I mean, it's a problem for me, somebody
Right.
can do it and, you know.
I mean, the circle.
No, all of the, like what Dennis is saying is to design, to do a cohesive design for shrubs and smaller things. And not just throw them in there, right? So getting the plants isn't
Right,
the big deal, I think
Yeah.
it's like designing them and doing the design
right.
is the harder part,
Like
you
for
know?
example, like when I was in the back doing my thing, so if you go to the back of the pizzeria, the owner, I
Yeah.
guess, kinda came out and talked to me, he's the one who put down the gravel and put his own planters in, and then like it's a continuation of, I think they're junipers or something like that, and it's a very narrow planting area, it's tight, you know, it doesn't look neat, you know, there's the one rat trap, you know, that's underneath the whatever, so it's like,
There's a rat trap?
well, you know, one of the, you know,
Yeah,
those
those
black
black things.
containers, you know, you have to have them, that's, yeah. So, the point is that like he, understandably from his view, from what he has, he wants it more open, and I'm like, okay, I could see that, you know, and then everything else is kind of the back entrance of the bank, and it's like, I don't know what they want, who knows what they think about, you know, but he has outdoor seating, he has rear, front entrance,
Was
and,
he
you know.
building that thing, or is the town building that little wall there? Somebody's building like a wall,
A
or
wall.
Well, it was called a sitting wall in one of the
Mm,
big.
I
Oh,
saw
so
that.
is that,
I would say that's part of
That's
the project,
part of
I don't
the
think he's
project.
building the
Yeah.
wall.
okay, because it looked like it was part of
He
his
just
outside
put gravel
area.
in that planting area and then kind of put his own pots in, I guess, on top of that, just to
So
sort
this-
of make it open
Yeah.
and inviting for his rear
Right,
entrance.
and you wanna have a little bit of a, yeah,
I guess I thought the sitting wall was like something he was designing for his own.
no, that's part
No,
of the
that's part of,
streetscape.
that's on the side, I know what you're saying,
Yeah.
yeah, no, that's part of the
Okay,
streetscape,
'cause
'cause
I
they're
think
all,
he had
those guys
tables
are
there.
working on that, yeah.
So he's not gonna have the tables in the same place, because there's gonna be a sitting wall, pretty
Uh,
much. Cause he used to put tables out.
right, well,
There.
he does have tables out there, it's potentially that the outline of the wall is gonna take up whatever space it's going to take up, and then from the inward part of the wall to
Then he'll have
his
tables.
exterior wall of the building, he'll be able to
Correct.
fit something in, yeah.
But I think he had tables going out more.
Okay,
Before.
that
That's why I
might be
thought it was part of
restricted
his
now, yeah,
design, I don't
yeah, so.
That's
So I mean, there's,
interesting.
you know, there's opportunities with, you know, I mean, obviously the Shell station has to do like a tank replacement and whatnot, that's why all that was kind of delayed, so, but he does a nice job, honestly. With
Yes,
what he's
he
got
does.
there, I gotta admit,
Oh, I
that's
have to
very,
say, I think it
very well
looks so
done.
attractive.
Yeah, yeah,
He really,
yeah, it's almost
does
like,
a nice
you know,
job.
you know, thanks for the template, you know, I always
I
wanna
thought
say
it
that.
was very pretty.
For someone who, you know, but there's a few gas stations I've noticed, even one in North White Plains that plants those tropical, that they'll grow here, cannies, yeah, you know,
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, and you know, surrounded by concrete, it's not a bad thing to see, you know what I mean, I'm like, good for him, you know, that they thought that out, so.
Yeah.
But-
So do we have to like plant, or does anybody have to plant shrubs this fall, or can it wait till the spring?
Well, I'm gonna try to get an answer on that, because I sent an initial email for 3 or 4 areas that I'm like, if you wanna try to do something now to satisfy some contractual issue, I said, these are the 3-4 areas that I think potentially could use it, and then as I'm writing that email, I get a 2-year-old design for the sign, which includes, okay, boxwood's not good, and okay, you want this size of flowering dogwood, it's a fall transplant hazard, maybe we wanna cut that, you know what I mean, like, again, you have to, like, I'm
Yeah.
trying to stress, you know, we just have to make sure, like, you know, is there some reason we need to hit these category of plantings in some
Now.
number before
Now.
2019
Right.
ends, or before the
Right,
planting
right,
season of
right.
2019 ends, like that question hasn't been answered yet, and that's why we're trying to, you know, push back
Yeah,
on
if
that
you
if
could
we
push back and
can.
say, can we
For that
delay it till the
reason.
spring
Yeah.
or next year?
Much
Because it's
better
more
plan.
time to talk about it, and more
Right.
time to develop something.
I guess the last piece is the front of this,
Right,
and you'll
that's
have trees for that, I
When the
guess.
mobilization area is done, yeah, I'm not sure what did they,
It looks like they're almost kinda done-ish,
they were gonna put,
right?
isn't that
After
here,
this
Washington, yeah, I don't know, this is 2 years old,
Yeah, they
Michelle
said that there
Benning's
was gonna
here.
be a couple more things in
flagpole,
October, and then
walls.
the punch list was supposed to be done in November.
And then that's it, except for here. Or maybe here is done as well.
I didn't read any of the details, I just remember the punch list thing was something they've asked people like to even help contribute, like if you see something that should be fixed, you could do a punch list.
Oh, you mean like anything?
Like, oh, whoops, they forgot the grate in front of,
Oh.
you know,
Right, well, for
Great stuff,
example,
or
the
whatever.
veterinarian got a hold of me when we were planting in front of his place and he said, do you know anything about, I guess there's like these plastic strips that kind of are in between the, you know, actual blocks of the sidewalk, and I said, right, I guess for the expansion joints, he's like, right, but I was told that the plastic's supposed to come out. You
Oh,
know, just
okay.
like, it's just a covering, I said, okay, I don't know about
Okay.
that, it's tree day right now, but I
Yeah.
said, I will,
put them in the,
Right, so
put it on
things
the
like
punch
that.
list, yeah.
Yeah.
Or if
yeah.
like something looks crooked,
Put it on the punch
cause
list.
I saw a land, it's driving me nuts, it's like,
Put it on the punch list,
okay. I will.
cause they can't see everything, you know,
Right,
then they'll have a
actually,
list, at least they'll address it.
Karen Antrim, chair of the conservation board, I think that is allowed to
See,
be
What-
part
what
to
does it
say
go to?
something, sure.
so,
Who gets the punch
yeah.
list?
I don't know, it's on the Newcastle webpage.
Okay.
Okay,
Okay.
is it Rob, Ivy, or Jill? Is it
Probably.
anybody? Yeah, yeah,
I mean,
Yeah, I
Ivy's
guess we should
told
walk
people to do it, like she said, go here to do it,
okay.
So-
okay,
and I don't know who looks at it at the back end, but I guess they're gonna just check,
alright.
go through them all, so.
I only see one light on, are they testing the different lights or something, do you know anything of that?
I haven't heard.
You mean here, when you,
That, you know,
Corner,
their
the
little
intersection,
no, not that thing, the giant lights.
oh,
Which is like the biggest thing I've ever seen and the biggest blackest thing I've never in my life seen anything that huge, the traffic light
oh, okay,
scenario.
yeah,
But I was told by someone that they're actually gonna make what is now a one-way street where Village Market is, a two-way street?
they were looking at that,
Right,
they,
but
because-
because there's a traffic light for it.
Mm.
There's one that's facing, from what I've been
Oh.
told, that,
I don't
which
know.
I think would.
It was definitely something they were gonna look at because it was gonna relieve some of the train traffic.
Right.
Right,
So it wouldn't, you'd have a third way out,
right,
you know,
and they might.
and they, well, I mean, they should look at it, you know, people were like, oh my god, you know,
Well, I think it would be bad for the merchants in
Well-
a way, cause they kind of depend on the ease of people just
well,
stopping right in and.
I don't know one way or the other, but they certainly should look at it, you know, and see.
I think they have, because
No, I
there's
think
a lot of discussion, you know, online about
I don't know
whether
much
it's gonna be
about it.
one way, two way, some parking, no parking, you know, it's been.
I don't know if they had done it yet though.
Yeah, I don't-
I think if the light
Well,
is
they
there
must-
in case
Well, I
they
don't know,
want
but they
to.
must have by now have decided
Yeah,
what they're gonna do, because, you know, it's supposed to be done in a couple of weeks,
Yeah, that's a good point.
so,
and then they'll have the lights.
well, they just
Don't know.
don't turn it on.
Yeah.
Maybe,
No,
I
but
don't
that's
know.
not the
Yeah.
light I meant.
Okay.
There's one street light,
Oh.
and there's only one that's on right across from the Bell parking lot, and I didn't know if that was like a test of what it's gonna look like.
I don't know, I saw somebody working on wiring today on one of the, you know, just sitting there, you know, might have been by the pizzeria, like literally playing with the wires, so I don't know if they're just hooking them up now, maybe, you know, you got me.
Well, yeah, I'll look around.
I have to take off.
Okay.
Alright, thank you very much.
Sure.
Thanks everybody, we'll see you in a month.
See you.
Okay,
And if there's anything else,